Hi guys, Ali Duzette here, and today is the astrological new year. Happy New Year, guys. Yes, the spring equinox is upon us. This is just great news and also really interesting news. Let's take a look at the astrology of it first, and then we're going to talk about something a little bit adjacent that's going to come into play this season and specifically this week. Okay, this is the moment that the sun enters 0000 of Aries. That's called an ingress. When a planet goes into a new sign, it's called an ingress. And when the sun ingresses into Aries, then we have the new year. That's Aries is number one. And so that moment kind of sets the tone for everything that happens in the year. In what's called mundane astrology, this moment is a really critical moment. And so I don't know if I have time to do it today, but later on I will be taking a look at a bunch of different places with this moment in mind and just see what it, I don't know, what does the chart have to say for different nations and different situations as a whole. But this is back to the point. This is the astrological new year. So this moment is going to kind of give us a little bit of a snapshot of the coming 365 days until the sun ingresses into Aries again. Okay, this is like the solar return of the year, and every person has a solar return. That is the moment when the sun goes back to where it was when you were born, the exact moment. So I was born at 4 degrees of Virgo. And so when the sun returns to 4 degrees of Virgo, that's my solar return. It might not happen on my birthday. It might happen the day before, might happen the day after, just like at midnight, or just right on the other side of what we consider the day. But that moment is the solar return. And the chart that is run from your solar return, your personal solar return, acts as kind of like a forecast for your whole year. It's a weather forecast. You can't say exactly what's going to happen, but you can get a really good feel of what's going to happen. And that has been true. I mean, I don't know, in 100% of cases that I have personally investigated, I have seen how years play out based on a solar return chart. So that's just a really fun thing to do. But this is going to be the solar return of just like the year. This is like the weather forecast for the whole year. So that's why I wanted to take a quick look at it. Some things that really stand out to me are this little stellium right here. This is Venus exact the north node at 4 degrees of Taurus with Juno conjunct. And good old Uranus just out of orb, but still in Taurus. And some astrologers would still count this as being pretty stellium-like. Now, Venus and Juno both deal with money and fidelity in relationships, and this is our destiny. And all in Taurus also deals with money, and Venus actually rules Taurus. So to me, that's saying that one flavor of this year is going to be a massive focus on money and our relationships, which makes a lot of sense. Our personal relationships, and then probably on a national level, our alliances and stuff of that nature. But expect a lot of obsessing over money, finances, fidelity. So Juno is a really interesting asteroid that we've got in that little group of 3 right there. And she is named after Hera, the wife of Zeus, who of course was famously cheated on over and over and over, but she stayed loyal. And so, and also money is named after her. Her other title was Montera, and that's where we get the word money from. And I ran a big chart of America's birth chart, and I was analyzing it based on the Pluto return, and found that on a Pluto return calendar generated by America's birthday, we did indeed create the first dollar and like formalize our money on the year that Juno was triggering, which is really interesting. Juno was kind of going off that year, and we got money. Hooray. So she deals with money and also fidelity. And so I think it's going to be really interesting as we're seeing these banks start to collapse. We're keeping an eye on Credit Suisse. I haven't checked on the situation this morning, but we're looking at possible big contagion as far as bank collapsing, and possibly globally, So keeping an eye on that. But I just think it's really interesting that Juno the asteroid, I mean, like, she kind of represents this battered wife that's like, not, maybe not literally, but like emotionally, she's been like used and abused, and her fidelity is just expected. And I don't know, I just think of like the taxpayer and just like the humans of America that have kind of really counted on a lot of stability that is turning out to maybe not be there. And we've seen how the FDIC had said that when SVB financial collapse, that they were going to pay out everybody, even the people that were not insured. And I mean, on the one hand, that's kind of good. On the other hand, like, the money isn't there, you know? And so I think we're going to see a theme of financial betrayal. And I don't know, just a big focus on again, those relationships, and particularly as they pertain to money. And as I'm talking about it, I'm thinking of how in the case of financial trauma, people will draw on their relationships and say, you know, hey, you owed me this money and I need it paid back now. Or like, hi, we're best friends, can I please have some money? You know, people can get into that kind of thing where they try to leverage their relationships financially. And so it would not surprise me if we see if we see some of that, if that's a little bit of a flavor that we look into and experience in this coming year, between now and the next time the sun ingresses into Aries. So let's take another look. One other notable thing happening this year is going to be this flavor of everything going on in Aries. We have Mercury, how we think. Chiron is our deepest soul wound and physical injuries. Jupiter is the expander of whatever it touches, and it also can deal with money. And then Vesta has her finger in a lot of pies. It's just busy, busy, busy. Aries is the sign of the warrior. Aries loves to just jump in and get stuff done, you know, it just jumps in. And so it's a little bit of a hothead and does not shy away from conflict. So basically this is just a very like this is a lot of stuff going on in Aries that's going to kind of have our minds primed to be very aware of what conflicts are brewing. This Chiron is going to make us all a little bit more susceptible to both physical and emotional injuries about the things that we're just jumping into. And that Jupiter is just going to blow everything up. This is especially interesting that all of this stuff is going on in Aries because, as you can see, this is the South Node and the North Node. They are about to ingress into the Libra to Aries axis. And this is something that I've been keeping an eye on for a while, and I can't wait to make more videos about it, but it's not technically happening until July-ish. And so more about that later, but basically for the next 18 months, the flavor of that 18-month period is going to be moving away from relationships and towards the energy of every man for himself. That's how it is on like a negative side. On the positive side, you could say we're moving away from codependency and moving into self-care. And so how it shows up for each of us is going to depend on each of us. So we will have to choose how we want it to show up for us. But that's going to be a real flavor, is a real shift into Aries energy for the next 18 months. And we're starting to feel it now, but we're really going to feel it after the nodes switch in July. Okay, other things in this chart, of course, how can we not mention that Pluto in this chart is at 29 degrees and 57 minutes, Pluto of Capricorn, okay? This, oh my goodness. So Pluto is about to enter Aquarius, which I've been talking about quite a lot. We've been expecting financial disasters, economic situations, possible bank collapses, particularly with things related to technology. So very perfect that, of course, it was Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank so far, that both are really into crypto and tech startups and biotech. Aquarius governs technology. And Pluto, hovering between Capricorn and Aquarius, is going to be doing this little dance of death and rebirth around the economy, banking, housing, technology, AI, UFOs, and humanitarianism as a whole concept of who takes care of who. What do we owe to people just for existing? What is a person? what is a person, and what is, you could say also like, what is woman? What is a man? All of those things are questions that Aquarius really brings up, and we're going to see a lot more of it as Pluto enters this zone. And it's entering Aquarius in just 2 days, I believe. I mean, March 23rd, today's the March 20th. And so in 3 days, we're going to have Pluto entering Aquarius. But through this year, we're still going to have flavors of Pluto in Capricorn. So again, a lot of death and rebirth around housing, the economy, the workplace, offices, how we think about all of those things. We're going to see some changes in how we perceive all of those things, the economy, the workplace, the housing market. So I don't know. And Pluto is going to be regressing back into, or retrograding back into Capricorn in July as well. So we've got a lot of stuff going on in July, but basically what we can expect is some level of financial upheaval. And I don't know, that is how it is. So there you go. Let's see, anything else? Oh, interestingly, I'm seeing in this moment that the part of fortune for the year will be opposite Pluto. So I haven't really thought about that dynamic before, and I haven't noticed it. And Ceres is at 0 degrees opposite Aries, opposite the sun at 0 degrees in Libra and Aries. So what does that mean for the Ceres and sun axis? I'm going to say tension between our ability to take care of ourselves and our families and whatever's going on in the world at large. Particularly emotional tension, and a focus on the seasons, the changing of the seasons. I don't know what that will look like, but I guess we'll find out. We'll check it in a year, right? And then that part of fortune opposite Pluto is, when you have an opposite, it works as tension. There's just a set of tension between our treasure and our homes. The treasure that we find in our homes, and a death and rebirth in the marketplace. So I was kind of thinking of this on a more emotional level, but as I'm like talking it out, I'm like, oh, that's like totally that housing market tension between our physical houses and our the treasure we find in our houses. That would be like the money that we paid for our houses. And then of course, Pluto, the death and rebirth of the economy. So anyway, those are some flavors of what is coming up in the next year. That's a little bit of a weather forecast for you. Now, okay, before we move on to our other thing, I want to do a different thing. It's the astrological new year. This today is actually the best day that exists for setting intentions for the year. Okay. We focus a lot on New Year's resolutions on January the 31st, which is smack dab in the middle of winter. What? This is the time that everything is new and that we're having new life, and it's springtime and it's the astrological new year. So I just want to encourage you to take a minute today and, I don't know, set some intentions. What I mean by that is to just make a little list of things that you choose will happen this year, and we're not going to be crazy unrealistic. We're not going to say, I'm going to, be a trillionaire by the end of the year. Like, no, but tune into yourself. You could ask in prayer as well, and just like ask, what should I set as my intentions this year? What would be supportive to me on my divine journey to set as intentions this year? And then just go write some down. Write 1, write 2, write 3, write 10, write however many that you want. And you would just say, like, I intend that this year I'm going to start exercising regularly. I intend that this year I'm going to drink enough water every day for myself to function optimally. I choose that this year I am going to reach out to my loved ones once a week. We can set these intentions, and I love setting it as intentions because then you can just write it down, set it and forget it, and then just leave it somewhere, and just rest assured that now that you have made some choices, that your own subconscious mind is going to support you in making those happen. And that, I don't know, I know that it can sound kind of like crazy that that's how it can work, but that is how it can work. It truly is. And so So there you go. Okay, now I want to show you one other thing before I call it a day today. And I'm looking for it. But where did it go? I don't know. I can't find it. There was a great post that I shared in my Facebook group yesterday called sorry, I was going to tell you the name of my Facebook group, which I can do also. Here's my Facebook group, Intuitive Healing and Self-Care with Ali Jazette. Sorry, and I'm looking for a post that I shared yesterday, and it is like not coming up right here. So come on, where is it? It was really good. Okay, I'll find it somewhere else, I guess. Let's do Ken Long Range Forecaster. Okay, this is the guy that we need to take a look at. I follow him. I think he's really interesting. Okay, this is the thing I wanted to share, is that March and September are more active seismically than at other months because this equinox occurs each 20 to 22nd of March and 22nd of September. It is when the center of the sun is directly above the equator. This is when the orbit of the moon is relatively faster in its orbit of the Earth. And like the midpoint of the pendulum swing, the two planets are moving the fastest in the year relative to each other. The atmosphere comes under stress from the extra distortion, as reflected in the weather. Equinox used to always be a time to watch for increased gales and changeable weather. Equinox gales described typical wind patterns and were part of everyday language. But today, such talking points are absent from our conversation. So this is just a great post that I shared in my group, and I guess so many people posted that it kind of fell through the cracks. That's fine. But this is an interesting guy to follow, and I just wanted to mention it because okay, we have, let's see, in March 2011, the full moon, perigee, and equinox coincided. Perigee is when the moon is actually like physically closest to the Earth. And it was the night of the third biggest earthquake in the Christchurch series. And the participants, okay, and then he talks about all these people thought he was crazy for predicting that earthquake, but then it truly did happen. And he says that we can expect more earthquake activity on the 28th, or between now and the 28th, the day of northern declination. So, and that right now, perigee is happening over South America. And my mom just told me that there was a big earthquake, South America. I actually haven't looked into it yet. Okay, there we go. Magnitude 6.8 earthquake on March 18th at 11:12 a.m. In Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador. Okay, that's what she was talking about. I sent my mom that post and she said, oh, well, that's true. Like perigee is over South America, and actually there's like this big earthquake happening there like right now. I sent it let's see, on Saturday, and now here it is, and so here we are. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that stuff to your attention. Super interesting. And now I need to go. So thank you guys so much for being here. Happy astrological new year. Remember to set your intentions, and I hope that you have a great day.